I mean, I made you do that in your head. You had I set it up. We had a thing going on right there. Hello and welcome everybody to another incredible Debbie's Dream Foundation cooking event. I am not alone. I am with you all. You are sort of like making me levitate. Also, the caffeine is doing that as well. There is someone else who is vastly more important than I. Who am I, by the way? Nathan Lyon. I am a chef. I have an Emmy nomination. I've been cooking on TV for 15 years. I have a health science background with a public health minor. I was a medical technician before I went to culinary school. I'm all over the place. But more importantly, I roll out the red carpet for Mary Eve Brown, the one we all know. And inside, we have little sparklers if it's safe and nothing's flammable around you. Mary Eve Brown is a clinical oncology dietitian at Johns Hopkins Kimmel Cancer Center. Mary Eve, I know you're cold where you are and you're making a little snowman. So thank you for stop making snowmen or snow persons to join us. How are you up there in the north?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. Yeah, it's snowy day here, north of Baltimore, 20 degrees, and it's all good because we're together.
We are together. You know, here in Austin, Texas, a couple days ago, it was 7 with the wind chill. Yesterday, it was 75. If you were dating the weather here in Austin, Texas, you would leave immediately. You're like, this person, there's nothing worth it. This person's crazy. So we're all getting through it. And we're having a good time. Today, as always, we'll be cooking some delicious food, nutritious food. I'm hoping I'll hear lots of incredible questions that I'm hoping you all have already stored up for myself or Mary Eve Brown. I'll be cooking a lot of things that are in season. All of them actually go together in one fell swoop if you want to have a big menu, or you can just go ahead and cherry pick whichever menus you would like to have. More importantly, well, how, if you've never joined us, how do you actually get your questions to us? That will be via this voice right here.
Hello, everybody.
That is Sarah Foreman, and she will be reading to either myself or Mary Eve whatever questions you have for either of us. So just go ahead and click them on in the chat box right there, and she will make it happen. So we'll have this wonderful dialogue and make some fantastic food together. What do you think?
Love it.
Okay. Should we get started? I mean, I only get you for an hour, and the fact that I get to monopolize your time isn't all magic tricks. It can be lots of other things, but let's go ahead and start cooking, shall we? The first thing I'll be preparing with you today is a meatloaf. Now, I know we're talking about calories and food and making sure that these things are digestible and all these wonderful things. And I think a meatloaf is something that's so great because it's got a lot of flavor. Meatloaf sandwiches, I think, are better because it's the next day. I think so, personally, but maybe I'm a crazy person because I'm from Arlington, Virginia. I'm a Beltway baby, okay? So I'm going to start with a lot of different flavors that I'm going to kind of pack in here, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the meat. So the flavors I'm going to talk about here really make the difference between, say, a burger and a meatloaf, okay? Meatloaf, let's be honest, not the sexiest name. Perhaps today we can come up with something better than meatloaf. It can be quite light and tasty. We're going to start with a couple of eggs, okay? And we're going to add a fair amount of liquid to this, and that's what I think makes the big difference between a meatloaf and, say, a simple burger. And we're going to do something called a panade. We're going to add a lot of liquid that has flavor in it. We're going to add some breadcrumbs, kind of mush it all together, and it ends up baking up really beautifully. It doesn't get dry. You're going to see a lot of liquid go into this bowl. Eggs starting from 1, good fat, good protein, fantastic binder for lots of other ingredients, right? I like to have my little compost bowl over here to the side for my eggshells. A lot of flavor in here. So what are we starting with? Well, we have some soy sauce. Soy sauce will kind of give us a little bit of salt that we need without adding salt, but it also gives us that umami, that flavor that makes you salivate. It's just really lovely flavor that you don't taste the soy per se, but you do taste the umami flavor that this is so rich that brings this meatloaf. Worcester. You know what? One of these days, someone's going to make me a t-shirt on how to enunciate this properly. Worcestershire. So we're going to go ahead and add that too. This also has that salt, but unctuousness, the umami, It does have some anchovies, some fermented anchovies. So two things have already really made this going to taste more meatier than it would without adding any more meat. Okay, a lot of flavor in here. A touch of complexity. Some mustard, and I like a little Grey Poupon, right? By the way, we're going to have all these recipes on offer. So if you're sitting there with a pen and paper, and if I'm rolling through this too quickly, grab yourself a cup of tea, decaf perhaps, relax, enjoy the whole process. I am. So we have three things in there so far. Ketchup. I love meatloaf with ketchup, but I'm going to add a little bit of that ketchup actually inside the meatloaf. This is a low sugar, low sodium ketchup that I have here. You can go ahead and make whatever sound effects, a very childish version of myself wants to, whatever you want, that's all on you. But I like to have fun when I cook, okay? We're gonna go ahead and throw that in there. Black pepper, why not? Freshly ground, yeah. All those essential oils that are in there, that's what I'm looking for. Now I'm gonna go ahead and whisk this up. I'm gonna make sure all of this comes together nicely. It may not look pretty, but it's very, very flavorful. Now, I said to you earlier, well, there's a lot of liquid. Sure, there is a lot of liquid here, but that's just like moisture. Let's talk about liquid, okay? Instead of adding water to something, I'm going to add some stock. How about that? So stock has a lot more flavor than just regular water. I'm also going to add a little bit of milk as well. So we have some, where do I have these guys? Already over here.
Welcome to Linda from Rhinebeck, New York, 10 miles north of the CIA in Hyde Park.
There we go.
The cooking CIA.
Oh, I was like,
Other CIA.
I'm from Virginia, so either that's a hush-hush thing that we're trying to throw us a, well, welcome. I hope everyone's staying very, very warm. And I know that we have a weather pattern running right up the East Coast right now. So we'll do what we can to circle the wagons and stay nice and warm together. So welcome. I added some milk, whole milk, and also some chicken stock to that. Now, historically, when you watched your grandmother or mom make meatloaf, would you normally see that much liquid? Probably not, okay? I have that all mixed together. Now I'm gonna add breadcrumbs. Normally, what would happen is you would add bread, like old stale bread, and you would soak it in there, but I like to use something a little easier. This is panko. Let me show you what it looks like when you're at the grocery store. It looks like that. Regular breadcrumbs work fine, but I like panko because it's a nice neutral flavor. And I know that come summertime, when Mary Eve is going to have the Debbie's Dream Foundation, the big tour bus, well, go around. Mary Eve already had, I know she has at least a couple of grills. Mary Eve, how many burgers can you bang out in one sitting thus far? At least a couple. At least a couple, for sure.
So my mom always put oatmeal
Okay,
in her meatloaf.
for sure.
Yeah, as her binder.
And that would make sense. The thing about, even with panko, what happens, it still looks really loose. And I'm sure you were sort of reflecting on the binder of oatmeal as well. Oatmeal, of course, has that lovely protein that goes with it. And it's going to start to soak up all that liquid, okay? So I'm just going to set this to the side for just a little bit and let it soak it up. And let's talk about a few more herbs, spices that we can throw in there, okay?
Welcome, Nancy from Washington.
Washington, D.C. or Seattle, Washington?
DC?
Washington State. Sorry, Washington State.
Oh,
Ooh, wow, my fingers just got really cold thinking about Washington State right now.
Susan from Clifton, Virginia.
VA. I went to JMU,
I love it.
ODU. We can talk about 930 Club, all sorts of things in
And we
DC.
have Steve here from Larkspur, California.
Jeez.
wow.
All over.
We are all over. You know, thank goodness for this whole Zoom thing. Or else,
Awesome.
yeah, it is awesome.
Facebook Live.
Fennel seed, big fan of fennel. I love oregano as well, a dried oregano. Now that we're talking about spices or dried herbs, I'm a big fan or advocate for after maybe a year and a half, tops 2 years, just go ahead and replace them. If you don't go through them that fast, if you have like a local like nature store where you can get things in bulk, just go ahead and grab yourself a little bag, refill them from time to time, because the oils, which has all the flavor, will degrade over time. And if you're using spices where somebody walks up and they go, "Oh, Nathan, I don't think this business is in business anymore, then you know it's just too old. Okay, so really give it a smell. If it smells like really fresh and vibrant, go ahead and keep them, but work your way through it as time goes on. Okay, so Phil, I'm gonna go ahead at 1.5
So chef, the other day, I'm doing something about spice next month. And I said, how many spices do I really have? So I counted them last night.
Hmm.
I have 67 spices in my spice cabinet,
Wow.
and I have 10 frozen herbs in my freezer section.
which will come in handy.
67.
It'll come in handy during
67.
the big gathering. That's a lot. Did you get those in the 80s with the cool spin ones where you're like, ooh, spin, 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 and you're like, boo, when you pull them out, you put them back in?
My husband calls me the queen of spice and the queen of condiment because I love spices, and spices have so many health properties to them.
Absolutely.
They provide phytonutrients, they're anti-inflammatory, they're antioxidant, they're anti-cancer. So we should all be exploring all the spice.
I love it.
So much flavor.
I love it. And also, if you
And
happen
me-
to have like you may call it like an ethnic store or something along the Indian store, Southeast Asian store, go in there and like smell stuff. There's so many things that we just don't have access to, like going to a regular giant food store or Piggly Wiggly or Whole Foods.
If
just
you
don't
have an
a lot
Asian
of stuff.
market near you, go to an Asian market. They have the best spices and fresh herbs. I mean, and you can freeze the herbs, right? So
Yeah.
if you buy them fresh at the grocery store, don't let them go. Put them in a baggie, throw them in your freezer.
And it
The
makes
other thing I like about meatloaf is you can change the spices up so many different ways, right? So you could have put turmeric in that. You could have put curry in that. You know, you can, it's the base, but it can have so many different avenues to it.
That's true. Absolutely. And for those of you that like spice, I'm sort of on the edge. Sarah likes spice, but she's from Dallas.
You mean heat, like hot?
Heat, like
spicy.
heat. Yeah, spicy
heat.
heat. Like getting those adobo, Chipotle and adobo, just a little splash of that adobo. It's so delicious. A little bit of heat in that tomato sauce, delicious.
We'd like to welcome June from Wichita, Kansas, where it is 7 degrees with a wind chill of -11.
Ah,
She wins.
ooh,
June wins.
she does. June. We all wish it was June right now, you know? My goodness, -7. Yeah.
And I have a question for Mary Eve. So I'll just ask that, but you're gonna add that, mix that Parmesan.
Yeah, so I'm gonna mix in the Parmesan, and then I pretty much have everything ready, and then I'm gonna start sort of clawing in, just adding, not squishing in the ground beef. Okay, so that's where we are. Take it away, Sarah.
Great. So question for Mary Eve. I have been told to take supplements, but I recently joined a gastric cancer support group. According to many of these people, I should be taking supplements. I've been told not to take them according to the group. Many people say I should. What is your opinion?
So it's really going to depend where you are in your journey. So if you're in treatment, you really want to talk to your treatment team about if you can take supplements or not. A multivitamin that provides 100% of the RDA is totally evidence-based, safe with all treatments across the board, whether it be chemotherapy or radiation, immunotherapy, all fine. But taking individual supplements is a whole other discussion, particularly during treatment. So if you do have a test and you find that you're iron deficient, you can definitely take iron. You're not going to want to take iron if you're not iron deficient. Vitamin D is totally safe with treatment. After surgery, if you've had a total gastrectomy, you need to be taking B12 injections because the intrinsic factor that's produced by the stomach is needed for the B12 to go down the gut to the ileum and be absorbed. If you don't have a stomach, you don't have intrinsic factor anymore. So you have to be taking injections of B12. If part of your, so the beginning part of the bowel, which is called the duodenum, does a lot of vitamin and mineral absorption. And if any of that's been touched, you do want to talk to your care team about getting like levels done. Like, you know, what is my iron doing? What is my vitamin D doing? You know, all the other B vitamins. And then if that needs to be supplemented, then they'll give you the recommendation of the right amount of supplements. But just to tell somebody to take supplements is not the right answer. It's going to be individual to the patient, to the person, to what their treatment is, and if they've had surgery, how much of their stomach is removed or how much of their bowel is removed. But 100% of an RDA is totally safe for all of us. The individual supplements are going to be individual to the person. Question.
Wow.
Great question.
It's a great question. Mary Eve, my question to you is, as far as supplements of any sorts, do you have resources or certain companies that you trust more than other? Because every day I'm trying to read up to be a healthier person, and sometimes, fish oils, for example, some companies do a very good job, and their studies are like, actually, there aren't many fish oils in this. So, do you have any companies that you would recommend people go toward?
That's an awesome question. So, the FDA has no bearings over any supplements. They're like, nah, I'm not touching that. So anybody can do anything with a supplement. There's no governing body, except for you want to look for USP, United States Pharmacopoeia. That's an independent testing that can be done that verifies that what is in that supplement is what's in that supplement and that it's easily absorbed by the body. So if you're looking for taking a calcium supplement or a vitamin D supplement or even a multivitamin, you're going to want to look for USP. The fish oil thing is a really interesting question because there can be contaminants depending on where they're getting, the oils from. Consumer Reports tends to have a pretty good list of safe supplements in that category. But generally, if you're looking for supplements, you want to look for USP. The other thing is for people who have had like gastrectomy or partial gastrectomy, a chewable vitamin is going to be much easier to absorb than a pill.
Well, that's cool.
And take it with a meal. So chewable with a meal and USP for general supplements. That's a great question.
I mean, I just, just reading up on these things because sometimes, my journey with supplements actually started when I was working out really hardcore right out of college. And I remember taking, I think it was niacin and zinc in one sitting, and I just got so full,
Flushed.
blood rushed to my
Red.
face. And I said to my mom, and I was like 22 at the time, and I'm 25 now. So it was just a couple of years ago. And I remember saying to my mom, I feel really hot. And she said, let me go get my gigantic encyclopedia book. And she goes, yeah, it says right here, you shouldn't take those together. So are there any sort of cautionary tales that you have for people that are working their way back or working through, healing, that they shouldn't take certain things? Or I guess their support group would have that information.
Well, you need to look at like the amount that you're taking, right? So I had a patient, she was taking like 5,000% of a certain, I can't remember what it was now. I want to say it was like B6 or something. She had neuropathy from her treatment, which is the nerve endings are kind of signaling to you that they're working overtime. And she thought B6 would help. And she felt miserable. And then when we looked at her, we're like, you're taking too much of that. So you want to look at, the percentage of the RDA. You really don't want to take more than 100. Most people don't need more than 100%, except for like vitamin D. That's the one that most people need to take more than because vitamin D is a weird thing that's not been studied very well on supplementation. We've been waiting for that. Yeah. So, and then also the other thing is like if you're taking a calcium supplement and a multivitamin, you don't want to take those together because the body has a cap about how much it's going to absorb at one time. And there is calcium usually in a multivitamin. So you really want to take your calcium separated from a multivitamin.
And did you mention vitamin D because no one can be outside in the sun right now? Is that why you mentioned that?
We all wear sunscreen. So it's like when you really look at vitamin D, so the recommendation for the normal levels, it's 30 to 100. That's insane. And it's based on really old science where below 30 was rickets, which is a bone disorder, and above 100 was kind of a toxicity. So they just made this really, really, really big range. I suggest everybody getting their vitamin D level checked. It's about 80% of the population that can be vitamin D deficient, and more so if you have darker skin. So getting your vitamin D level checked and then see where your number is. And your physician might say, oh, you're 35, that's okay. I'm like, oh, it's still a little low. You might want to take a daily supplement, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 international units. Totally safe, totally safe.
Oh, that's good to know. You can't, oh, that's good to know. All right, cool. Because, I used to work outside with farmers for over 10 years and I was outside a lot. So I always try to stay out of the sun. But yeah, you're exactly right. It looks like most people are actually having deficiency. And when you're in the Northeast and it's snowing and it's freezing outside, I can only imagine the deficiencies that people would run into over there. All right. So what I've done.
Yeah, and you can't eat your way out of vitamin D deficiency. So our bodies are made to make it from the sun. It's not very readily available in food sources. So if you are vitamin D deficient, you can't get out of it with an oral diet. You have to take a supplementation unless you want to do cod liver oil every day. not me.
Oh.
No, thank
Do
you.
what?
Cod liver oil.
So you can eat your way out of it. Bleh, bleh, bleh. That sounds gross.
Bleh.
Bleh. Okay, so what I've done, where we are right now, it didn't take a long time. Mixed it all in a bowl. As you were watching, I was sort of like clawing the ingredients together. I was not smushing it. That's where people go wrong when they make either burger meat or chicken patties, turkey patties, beef patties, whatever it is. You never want to smush meat together because it makes it so that the proteins sort of stick together, and it makes it the texture more like a sausage where it has a more snap and chewy rather than something more succulent and fall apartness. I just made up that word, fall apartness. And what I did was sprayed just a regular, baker's pan, bread pan with nonstick in hopes this is going to get out pretty easily. And I just smushed it in there and made a little form. Because growing up, my mom would then bake it just like this. But the best part is the part that gets a little bit of caramelization. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to flip it on its head so that the whole circumference is the best part. And then
Yay!
this,
I was hoping you were going to do that.
oh yeah, yeah, this is perfect. But we do want to make
Awesome.
sure
Yep.
that cleanup is very easy. Actually, for Mary Eve, what we're going to do is we're going to take this little stick wand and we're going to blend it so that I just want to see if Mary Eve has just her head explodes using her favorite ingredient.
Never know.
No, you never know. So
Yeah, don't do that.
don't do that. So what I've done is I've just taken a sheet pan, line it with foil. That's just for easy cleanup. And then some parchment, again, so it's easier to sort of lift off of the sheet pan. I have my oven set for 350, and then the rack is right dead center in the middle, okay? Just right in the middle. So I'm gonna hope for the best on this one. If I turn it out and it comes out, then great. If it doesn't, after a couple little jiggles, like that, then people can point and giggle at you, which I don't recommend, or you can just take like a little offset spatula and make what's called a little air gap in here, so it'll easily slide out. Okay, so don't panic if it doesn't come out right away. Just go ahead and use a regular knife or a little, there we go.
Wow.
Done, okay? And through the magic of television, wait a minute, this isn't television? Here we go. So we're looking good. So this is a good looking meatloaf. Things are looking nice. I feel good about it. I use those gloves just because I want to make sure that we're here together and I'm not off washing my hands all the time. This is going to go in for 30 minutes, okay? 30 minutes. Here we go.
To start.
What's that?
To start, right?
Yeah, to start. So 30 minutes is not going to cook that through to where we want it to be, the safety of it, okay? Or like that good caramelization that we need. So after a half an hour, what's going to happen is I'm going to pull that out and then coat it with a thin layer of ketchup. And again, when you go back to your memories of childhood, that ketchup almost becomes like a ketchup leather because it dehydrates. And whatever sugar's in there, which is probably not very much because it's low sugar, low sodium, gets that just like tartness. And that's this wonderful foil against the unctuousness of all those flavors and the fat that's in that beef. Okay, that's going to be fantastic. So the next thing we're going to move on to, thank you, is a celery root soup. So celery root is the weirdest looking root vegetable you've ever seen. It is related to celery, but it's not actually grown for the celery you would see at the grocery store. This is a celery root. You've probably seen them in the grocery store and went, what the hell? Good. And just kept going, okay? These are really good for you. They're super easy to work with. They last a long time in the fridge. Give it a go. It smells like celery, but the taste is almost like celery with almost like a little bit of vanilla. It has the sweetness to it, which I really, really like. And you can eat it raw if you want. I do. It's delicious, like a raw apple, celery root salad, which is lovely with some Parmesan cheese. But what we're going to do is I'm going to peel this, kind of chop it up, and we're going to throw it in with a couple Yukon Gold potatoes. Okay. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to peel this thing. Should I? This one?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
A little guidance.
I wouldn't use a peeler. This peeler will run and hide like a cat or a dog because it's a lot to take on. So what I'm going to do is just take like a little paring knife, okay? Just take a paring knife and just slice through it the way your grandmother did an apple. You are not going to make one full twist the way your grandmother or you guys did with an apple. That's as much as I got. And just keep peeling it until you get this lovely soft white flesh, and it smells like a fresh celery. Like when you cut celery, it smells amazing. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and peel it. Just peel all this off until all the roots are gone. Discard the roots, and then everything else we're just going to go ahead and chop up and put in a pot. All right, so I'm going to put this off to the side. I've already peeled one. Haven't chopped it yet. So that's my celery root. And I also need a couple potatoes. So let's do 3 of these little Yukon Gold potatoes. Now, while I'm peeling and chopping them, knife skills not important. So go ahead and cook them until they're all nice and soft. Just go ahead and chop them as you wish. But Mary Eve, I have a question for you. Sarah and I were talking this morning about if I were to boil these potatoes, chop them up with the skin on, would that be the same as if you were to peel them for a lot of your patients, or do you always want to make sure that the peel is off a potato, even if they're going to be cooked and blended?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So sometimes the nutrients are close to the skin. So if you're a person who can eat the skin, I would encourage you to do that. But if you're having any kind of GI distress, I would peel them. And I'm a person who always ate the potato skin, but there are people who don't eat the potato skin. I'm like, really? To me, that's the best part. So if you can eat it, yes, because the nutrients can be close to the skin. But if you're having any kind of upset tummy or GI kind of things, you're definitely going to want to peel them. And celery root is really easy to digest. So this is a perfect type of soup if you're having a day where your GI system is just a little bit off. I think that this would be perfect. And Chef, can you like batch cook that and then freeze it like into individual portions possibly, or
Yeah,
or
this
no?
soup you absolutely can, because we're gonna go ahead and cook the heck out of it. Well, cook it until it's done. And because we're not gonna be like boiling any of these vegetables, so all the water soluble vitamins will still be in the liquid itself, since we'll be using that. So yeah, it's gonna be nice and creamy, and you go ahead and break it down and then freeze whatever you don't need and just reheat whatever you need when you need it. Great
I
question.
definitely tell all my patients, on a good day, if you can do some cooking and individually freeze and individual portions, don't freeze a whole big thing, but something small that you can pull out and pop into a pot or pop into a microwave on a bad day. That can fit a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
When I was working at the farmers markets in Southern California, one of the farmers that grew this said that it also has anti-inflammatory qualities to it. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a root, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, plants have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties. I said, if it's grown from the planet, it's healthy for me.
There's got to be a t-shirt we can all order that says that. Absolutely. Oops, there we go.
Okay.
If it's grown, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
For Mary Eve, but I'll let you set up what you're going to be doing so that.
Oh, as far as this?
Yeah.
Oh, great. So I have my pot behind me. All the vegetables go in here. I'm gonna go ahead and add some stock and some milk, a couple bay leaves and some thyme, and bring that to a very low simmer. So that's what we're gonna do here, right?
Question for Mary Eve. I have always been a healthy person. My main diet has been Mediterranean prior to my cancer diagnosis. I'm going to start chemotherapy. Do you think I can still eat this diet?
It's going to depend. So I think most people know what a Mediterranean diet is, and it is a healthy diet. It's rooted in colorful, plants and fruit and nuts and seeds and beans and, fatty fishes, some poultry, olives, olive oil, some dairy. So it really depends. You know, most treatments for gastric cancer can be gut toxic, which means that it can affect your mouth all the way through. So you could get mouth sores, you could get nausea, you could get diarrhea. But there are also good days. And so I always tell my people, on a bad day, if you need to maybe not follow the healthiest diet, but it keeps you well nourished, that's okay. And on a good day, try to eat as healthy as you can. Most people after infusion, 4 or 5 days, they could be a little low. But if they're every other week, you've got a whole other week, right? You can try to get these healthy properties in. So I always think of it as treatment, nutrition, and days of treatment. And then, days where I feel well, I'm off of treatment, and then I can go back to my healthy diet. So it's trial and error, but it might work. I was gonna say something about so would you, I'm trying to get more protein into that soup. Would you make it, could you do a bone broth? Could you do a high protein milk in there?
You could certainly do a high protein milk in here. The reason why I did stock is for that flavor. And what happens also for those of you that have ever tried to heat up milk, oftentimes it's a cleanup day. That's the
Yeah.
day where just the proteins just
Yep.
all over the place.
They denature.
They do, and it's just a gnarly. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be a little funky looking. We're going to get some really cool looking big bubbles happening in here. Just leave it alone. I don't like to put a lid on it because of that very reason. As soon as I turn away to pet my dog, it just spurts all over the place. So I do half milk, half chicken stock or vegetable stock. Bone broth would certainly work. The only issue I have with bone broth, as opposed to like a chicken stock or a homemade chicken stock or a homemade chicken bone broth, is that it might overpower the very delicate flavor of
Oh,
the celery root. That's just from a chef's perspective. You absolutely,
okay.
if you can get more nutrition in something like that milk you're referring to, totally use that. There's no reason why that wouldn't work perfectly. But I like it. I definitely like it. And it's also a winter, it's a winter root vegetable. These are all the things where if you have in New York, in DC, definitely in California, there's some really lovely farmers markets that are open year round. And I always like to say that Mother Nature puts in front of you what you should be eating because it's going to have the most nutrients. It's going to cost the least. And it's going to have the most flavor. So those three things are just such a wonderful little trifecta of deliciousness. And also, you don't have to wait for it to be on a refrigerated truck for 3 weeks to get to you. It's just literally right around the corner. So that's a really plus.
It's gonna have much more nutrition. So my winter project is microgreens. So I'm growing microgreens, which are super easy.
So which microgreens? I'm so curious now.
Okay.
Where are you
So
growing them?
Yep. So I've got broccoli sprouts, radish sprouts, fenugreek, radish. I've got some tatsoi,
Okay.
which is
Oh, sorry.
tatsoi? I didn't know
Yeah,
it until.
at the farmer's market in
Yeah,
California.
for sure.
Yeah, so here, in the snowy weather, I've got my microgreens in the other room that I just snip off and throw into a salad.
Oh, great.
Where are you growing them? In your guest bathtub? Is that where
My
this is happening?
dining room.
Uh,
I
We
say I'm
all
going to
have.
the garden now, people, to get my greens.
Where's your greenhouse? It's on your living room, dining room table. I get it.
With
Absolutely.
a grow light. Yeah.
Well, we have, I'm not sure if you can see this.
The edge of it.
We have a massive, what used to be tiny, about this big curry plant. And it is absolutely monstrous. It's just so flavorful. And if you can go to, the ethnic stores that you not normally go to,
Curry leaves. Curry leaves.
Yeah.
So good. So when you see them, let me just rip one of these off. So I just ripped this right off.
Yes.
the fruit. And what you would do is the same way that I just added thyme. So all I did was I just put a big sprig of thyme. The thing about the thyme or these fresh herbs, I don't need to pick individual leaves. I don't have to chop them or anything like that. I just throw the whole bunch in there. Like you would throw this in some oil or some butter or whatever, and it would flavor all the essential oils. I mean, you bruise them and you smell them in your hands. It just smells unbelievable. These are really lovely. Now I guess I'll have to make this for dinner. Who knows?
Sorry, chef. I have
Yeah.
ginger leaves in my freezer. So I got the whole ginger with the whole root. I
Wow.
just take all the leaves off.
That sounds fantastic.
Make a tea.
Welcome to Priscilla, joining from Kansas City, Kansas.
Wait a minute.
We have two Kansas.
Wasn't June from Kansas City, Kansas? Do you know each other? Maybe you do. That'd be fun. You never know. Get this community building it, plate by plate. That sounds fantastic. Let's recap, shall we? A lot of fantastic questions. Mayor Eve, thank you for those answers, and thank you for answering my questions personally. We have a few things going on. We made this incredible meatloaf, which we threw a lot of fun flavors in there, mixed it all together, and now it's in the oven for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and sort of, looks like basting it with a thin layer of low sodium, low sugar ketchup, and then I'll continue cooking it for those 75 minutes. I have made one already, unless you want to extend this and we're all sort of sitting around playing cards or Uno, go fish. So you can see what it's like at the end. Also, it's good to have it, at least for me, for my purposes of showing you today, letting it rest when you get it out of the oven. People make a big mistake about if they cook meat or chicken or whatever type of animal protein you're cooking, is they slice into it right away. That holds true for meatloaf as well, because you want it to sort of cool down, so when you slice it doesn't crumble apart. Okay, so wait at least 15-20 minutes after you get it out of the oven in order to go ahead and slice that. Okay, and we also have this soup. For those of you just joining, that is a celery root, celeriac. It sounds like a really cool name if you're into D&D from the 80s. What's your name? My name's Celeriac, and this is a big mace that I'm having. It's that, and it's just gorgeous. This does not make celery, but it is in the same family, and it's used just for this root. It's
And very
amazing.
seasonal, like many things you can find in the grocery store year round, but not celery root.
Not
So
this.
now is your chance to do it.
That's right. And if you find it at the grocery store, you can go ahead and store this in your regular refrigerator for probably a month, if not more, because they hold up super duper well. This doesn't know it's out of the ground yet. So you can just go ahead and keep it in your fridge. It stays nice and cool, and it holds up quite well. Even nutritionally, it holds up quite well. Okay, so that's my celery root. We're making a soup out of that. So this is my soup. I have my meatloaf in here. Another thing that would go really well with this dish, and we've already peeled a couple of them, is just olive oil smashed potatoes. You don't have to go crazy when you're making mashed potatoes. You can if you want, but you don't have to. So if you're the type of person that really likes potatoes, whatever color you can get your hands on. I love those Peruvian purple potatoes, which are gorgeous. There are some really, really yellow ones, some fingerling ones. If we went to the Andes, you would find literally 1,000 different varieties of potatoes where they all came from. The more color, I think, as a chef, the more vibrant, and also the textures can be really fun and enticing. So
And Mary, you can talk to the nutritional properties of the color, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, so we have, these Yukon Golds, which are yellow, but also you do see some Peruvian purples. And Mary, can you touch on which ones might be the most nutritious out of what's on offer at the grocery store?
Yeah, so they're all nutritious. The different colors give you different phytonutrients, which are different cancer fighters. The things that are purple are going to have a different profile than things that are yellow, that are orange, that are white. And some people say, well, it's a white thing, I shouldn't be eating it. No, white also has phytonutrients in it. And again, if it's grown in the plant, as a plant, it's good for me. So yeah, so the variety of color, I find the purple ones to have a harder texture, not a harder texture, but more firm, I guess is a better word.
Like crumbly?
Yeah, so if you can start using all these different colors, which is eating of the rainbow, which is what we recommend, you're going to be getting a broad spectrum of different phytonutrients. You don't want to just be eating the same colors over and over again. I just don't want to be doing, green and white. You want purple, you want orange, you want red, you want the whole spectrum of vegetables in color.
And to go back to, thank you for answering that, by the way, to go back to shopping at farmers markets. If you do have a farmer's market, chances are you are going to have a brand new world. Don't make me start singing. It's a brand new world. Don't just stop it. I said I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it, but I want to. There will be a brand new world of different types of produce on offer, because the ones in the grocery store, when you think about it, if most of the produce that's coming from California in the middle of winter, that produce has to be designed to last many, many weeks in storage, where they pick it, they put it in storage, then it goes on a truck. That truck takes it to a storage unit that's refrigerated. That probably goes on a refrigerated 18-wheeler or a train, which takes a long time to get across the country. Then it's put in another storage unit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of nutrients are lost over that period of time. But if you go to your local farmer's market, you will find different types of produce that are not designed over the last 10,000 years or bred for certain qualities to make sure they last a long time, that they have like the lowest amount of flavor and sugar, they don't rot. They're actually bred for the most flavor. So go to your farmer's market. If you haven't been there, bundle up. I know it's going to be a pain in the bottom, but get there and you will be welcomed like a family member that you actually want to spend more than just one day on Thanksgiving with, maybe 2 or 3 if you're lucky. But you'll see so many different things, and they will there will be people like me, chefs standing right next to you, answering your questions in addition to the farmers as well, okay? So
So-
that's sort of like a personal thing I want all of us to embrace and try to get you a farmer's market if you can.
And when I'm in line, you know, I start talking to the people around me, like how they use that. So the other is a CSA, which is a cooperative between, you know, a local farmer and you. You buy a share of their farm, and then you get the produce from that farm. And I love it because I would open my box and be like, what the heck is that? And then I would have to, like, calabri. I had never had calabri before. And I'm like, oh, fava beans. I had never had fava beans before. And now it just opened up a whole new world for me.
Take it up, take it away, sing. It's a whole new world.
No, the nuns
No.
at my private school were like, okay, do not sing, please. You're like going to kill a cat or something. So, yeah, so a CSA, a farmer's market, I just love supporting the local farmers. And it will, as Chef said, it's going to get you doing things that you would never see, never try, but you might find something that you really, really, really enjoy. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Big time. Yeah, the CSA, when we first moved here to Austin, you know, having worked with farmers so intimately, I would just go to, you know, I worked 4 farmers markets a week in Southern California for one farmer. And then what would happen is I never had to pay for produce. It was fantastic. And then we moved here, and it's just such a rough and tumble type of environment. Not Austin, but it's like the weather, as we know, it's I've already had a swing of 70 degrees. And you have to be a rough and tumble vegetable in order to grow in those types of conditions. And so we did actually sign up for a CSA, which is community supported agriculture. And we got a lot of radishes
Yeah.
and not much else. I mean,
No, it was good.
the variety was like,
We got some good stuff though.
Did you get any
everything we got
watermelon
was like a
radishes?
bumper crop.
Watermelon radishes?
Yes,
No.
watermelon radishes.
Yeah, that's true.
All the
Watermelon radishes.
radishes.
Boy, it was
Pickle them, roast them,
Yes.
shave them
We-
thin.
we were making watermelon radish smoothies. I mean, we were going to town. So this is something that's just like really, if you've ever been camping or been to the beach and you've got a bonfire and somebody's like, hey, grab that potato, wrap it in foil and throw it in the coals. That's essentially what we're doing here. We're doing it one at a time. So if it's just Sarah and myself, I only have a couple potatoes. I don't have to make a whole bunch of mashed potatoes and then store them in the fridge. I may not get back to them. So as far as like saving myself a lot of work, saving myself a lot of storage space or room in your refrigerator, and then you can just have them, you know, hot and ready when you're ready to go. And that's kind of it. It's like a little purse that I've made. And so instead of doing mashed potatoes with a lot of butter and cream, which I got nothing wrong with butter and cream, which just came out of the holidays, but this is something really simple that showcases the flavor of the potato. A lot of people don't know that. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. It was at the rim. Boy, Mary Eve, that was close. That was really
My fault,
close.
my fault, my fault.
No, you should have seen Sarah's eyeballs got as big as saucers and she went like that. And I was like, what's going on? But it didn't overflow. It was just half milk. So that worked out nicely. So what people don't know is that because we only see the russet potato and the Yukon Gold, maybe a couple banana fingerlings in the grocery store, potatoes have so much flavor. It's like when you see like a corn, a type of variety of corn, where it's just like bright red and bright orange and bright purple, things you never see from the super sweet ones in the grocery store. So again, you know, I'm a big advocate of supporting local farmers and trying new things. And again, if you don't have a farmer's market nearby, definitely check out the ethnic food stores, because a lot of stuff they have on offer is just the coolest. You just stand there and go, what? And then they tell you how to do it, and you bring it home, and it could be a new favorite thing, right?
Also, I've ordered about, I think 3 times from them. Farmer Jones
Yes.
Farm in Ohio.
Yep.
And there is a farmer out there growing and they deliver. It's a little spendy, but you can try some amazing things and they have incredible quality produce. So it's almost like having a little farmer's market. That's where we got the celery root.
The celery root,
That's awesome.
It's
Can you
really-
put that in like the chat or something? Like,
Yeah,
can you?
super fresh. If I showed you the type of spinach we got, still with root attached, it's just unbelievably flavorful, and that root is amazing. Just double or triple wash it.
And
It's
you can
amazing.
curate your own vegetable box from what they grow, and then they send it, like when you order it, it'll get there in 2 days.
which is
Wow.
a lot faster than what you would get from California at a grocery store. I'll tell you that.
Wow. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
It's
awesome.
really, really good.
I decided to do wild caught seafood.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I got my box the other day. And what I loved about it was, I love salmon, but my husband not so much. So I could get a mix. And so we had halibut. And when I opened it up, it told me the fisherman who caught it.
Did it say what his sign was also?
He's probably a Pisces. No,
Aha, me too. I'm a Pisces. Ba, 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 ba. This
Just
is
for show and tell.
look at that.
That's a spinach.
I'm sorry, spinach. My fault.
It's called Bloomsdale spinach, and we were getting it in California at the farmer's market, and it's like a whole different type of spinach. I highly recommend.
It holds up super well. Like if you make a stew, we throw this in the last 5 minutes and it still holds up. We reheated some for dinner last night.
2 days later, it's still crunchy.
Still crunchy. Amazing.
Okay, I'm popping by later for my own bag of that.
Please.
I like a little show and tell every now and again.
I do have a question for Mary Eve, but I want to, just if
Okay.
you're gonna get set up for your smoothie and
Okay.
wants.
Great. Just to bring you up to speed, potatoes, you saw me olive oil, individually wrap. I have some already in the oven, so they're nice and hot. All I'm gonna do is bring them out, smash them, add olive oil, season them to taste. We're done, okay? Let me go ahead and get started on, I'm gonna bring some ingredients over for this lovely peanut butter banana cream pie protein smoothie that Sarah and I came up with. It only took 3 or 4 tries, but boy, we're like, is it good enough? I don't think so. Like, it was really lovely. So I'm gonna start bringing stuff over here.
Okay, question for Mary Eve. My mother just had a partial gastrectomy. She will be staying with me after she's discharged. I want to be as prepared as I can. What food should I have ready?
Oh, wonderful. Okay, yeah. So things that are going to be easy to digest are what you're going to want to have available. This soup that the chef is making would be perfect. Hot cereals like cream of wheat, oatmeal, soups we talked about. Low fiber vegetables, cooked carrots, cooked green beans. You could make a soup with those, or just, cook them well. White rice is going to sit really well. A baked potato is going to sit really well. Fish, eggs, dairy may not sit well. I mean, if she's had only part of her stomach removed, it depends on how much is left. But what you want to avoid are things that have a lot of fiber in them, a lot of spice to them. Eating and drinking at the same time, you have to separate those two. Things that have a lot of sugar in them, and that can include dairy, but you could definitely do lactose-free products, lactose-free milk, lactose-free yogurt, lactose-free cottage cheese. You need the protein. So you're going to want to encourage her to eat protein first. So she's going to be eating these small, frequent meals every couple of hours, but always eat your protein first, because that's what's going to help with the healing process after surgery. So scrambled eggs, lactose-free yogurt, tuna fish, nut butter sit really well. So chef is using some peanut butter. It could be almond butter. It could be cashew butter, like on a saltine or like a simple cracker, or even on toast is going to be okay. Fish should be okay. And chef is doing something really smart here too. He's using a ground meat. So that's usually the meat that I recommend first. So a meatloaf can work really well. A meatball can work really well. Ground chicken, ground turkey. Those are going to be much easier to get in. So protein first, and then just really simple to digest. The other is you may need to encourage your loved one to eat, because their appetite may not be there. But don't ask them what they want, because when a person doesn't want to eat, they don't want to talk about it. So just let it show up. And the other thing is really small. So I call it toddler eating. So it's a quarter of a normal portion. So it would be, half of a scrambled egg. It would be, a quarter of a sandwich. It would be like 4 ounces of a soup. Because if you overwhelm the patient when they come home, it's going to be a really negative situation. And if she doesn't normally live with you, that's a whole other dynamic of things. So, just small, frequent, and protein first and easy to digest.
So you just sort of like popped a little idea in my brain. We have peanut butter here, ground peanut butter, ground peanuts. I know there's certain peanuts that have more of a caloric density. I think macadamia, I'm sorry, yeah, certain nuts. I think macadamia is probably the highest as far as calories. Is there a ground seed or a nut that you would also prefer over different varieties? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and blend this really smoothly.
I don't recommend one over the other. It's more of a taste preference. Um, you know, some people are peanut allergic and some people are tree nut allergic. So it's going to be, you know, is that something that I'm not allergic to? And do I like the taste profile of it? I think that things about seeds, because people want to use flax seeds and they want to use chia seeds. And if you're going to be using a seed and you're soon after surgery or treatment or anything, you have to grind it really well and grind it as you're going to use it. You don't want to buy a ground seed because it goes rancid pretty quickly unless you keep it in the freezer and you only take out your portion. I usually tell people if they're going to do that, that's fine, but you may need to grind it again just so it's like easier to digest. If you use a seed and you don't grind it, you're not getting the nourishment out of it. Our bodies don't have the capability. So if I'm eating flax seeds on my cereal and they're just the seed themselves, okay, that's fiber, but I'm not getting any of the health properties out of it. The omega-3s.
Well, this is going to be amazing. I hope you guys try this one. Has plenty of fiber. Ingredients, as we banged it out, super fast, as you well know. Frozen banana, so that's one thing you probably have to do ahead of time. Did some ice, peanut butter, as you saw, yogurt. It went bloop. I wasn't expecting it to go bloop, but there's a lot more yogurt in here than I intended, but it still turned out beautifully. Some milk and vanilla extract. That's my whole thing. And whatever protein powder you would recommend to get a little bit more protein in a person's diet. That's a really delicious, delicious smoothie. Okay.
Love it. It could be a meal, right? So sometimes when I don't want to eat, I can drink something. So that's a perfect idea. Like the middle of the day, I know I need to be eating something. Can I drink something? That's awesome.
Well, that keeps it to where you have something on offer at all times. I love the idea that you would produce small amounts for people rather than serving someone who may not want to eat a whole Thanksgiving dinner at once. But that's exactly right. I would rather have some smaller portions and then have to go back for more than be given something that just seems so overwhelming that you just don't even want to. Where do you begin when you have so much food in front of you? So this is, Mary Eve, the soup. We went ahead and blended it. It has a touch of goat cheese and butter to finish that, give it that lovely texture and lovely flavor. I'm a big
I love the
fan.
bowl that you're using. You know, when you set a pretty table, it does pique appetite. So putting it in a beautiful bowl, that's huge. Awesome.
It is huge. And
I
people
want to put an umbrella probably in the smoothie.
I love it.
So this is something that I say to people, you know, when exactly what you're talking about, Mary Eve, which is presentation is absolutely important. And it's kind of a joke, but I've been saying it for years. You could just take your steak or chicken or fish along with your salad and your dessert and just blend it and drink it. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but when you present them with these smaller portions of something that's very elegant and it doesn't take much effort or much money to make, it's amazing. Okay.
I have a question for Mary Eve while you work on the next thing.
Yep.
Many of us who have had a TG deal with reactive hypoglycemia are root veggies higher in carbs.
No, and they're complex. So that does help with glycemic control. When you do something that's like quick, that can have more of a problem with blood sugar. But if you eat protein and any kind of carbohydrate together, that does even out blood sugar.
Got it. And as far as potatoes, I mean, this is such a lovely way. You get a little caramelization on this, as you can see, which is really, really nice. It has a tendency to soak up that olive oil, which is wonderful. You could, in theory, make this ahead of time and re-warm it in like a little toaster oven or something along those lines. But again, when you have them all wrapped up and they're peeled and a little bit of olive oil for flavoring, this is all you have to do to make this happen. You really just have to use the back of a fork because they're nice and soft. You can see how golden they are just naturally. A little bit more because I love olive oil. And you would just season it to however you want to season it. A little salt and freshly ground black pepper. You could put some parsley in there if you want a little bit of color and some herbaceousness. But for the main part, you would just use the backup fork and give it a smush, okay? And this is super duper easy. You have to like olive oil, however. That's the one caveat. If you don't like olive oil, then use butter. My second favorite ingredient to use as far as flavor and a little bit of texture. All right. So there is that lovely small single portion of mashed olive oil potatoes. There we go.
Hey, chef, can I ask you about olive oils?
Yes, of course.
So I see a wide variety of cost. Like you have some that are really inexpensive and then the ones that are like super expensive.
Yep.
Is it really worth buying the premium ones?
I think it depends upon, I'm gonna go ahead and bring this over. I think it depends upon where it's grown. The problem with olive oil, it's just very difficult to find out who's actually telling the truth.
Yes.
A lot of Italian olive oils that can charge more money, but a lot of those olives can actually be grown in Spain. So it'll say like Italy processed instead of grown in Italy. I actually work with this company, or not anymore, but I have worked with them, Lucchini. I know they hand pick their olives so that the ripeness is just perfect. California Olive Ranch is a lesser expensive but really good quality olive oil. But to answer your question, no, it doesn't have to be. I always like to get my olive oil, if I can, in the fall when the olives are harvested. So you'll get them like late fall, middle of winter is when you'll get the freshest stuff. It's like anything else. It'll say harvest date. It'll say when it is, and I just find the freshest one I possibly can. And then don't store it on the windowsill. Don't store it underneath where your heat comes out. Store it in a nice, cool, dark place. It'll last a longer time. As you had mentioned, things going rancid earlier, and olive oil will do that exactly. I don't like to store it in the fridge, but a nice, cool, dark place right next to the potatoes is a fantastic place to store them, right?
Nancy,
Thanks.
how long did you cook the potatoes?
I cook the potatoes around 50 minutes is the full time. You can go further. And the cool thing is when you make the meatloaf and you pull it out to go ahead and glaze it, and you can go ahead and put the potatoes in there. And as you pull out the meatloaf, this is cooling and the potatoes will be done and everything sort of be served at the same time. But 50 minutes for like a medium size Yukon Gold potato. And you can go a little bit further if you want it to cook. No harm will be done if you go further than 50 minutes, okay? When you check a potato, just one more thing, you want to check with the tines of a fork rather than the tip of a knife, because the tines offer more resistance. It's a truer indicator of whether something is done or not, rather than using a knife, right? So this is going to be a big old slab for me, knowing full well that I'll probably eat this for lunch and then like a nice sandwich this afternoon. So this is my meatloaf. Beautiful. That is my meatloaf. The top is glazed with a little bit of extra ketchup. Put it back in, and it forms this nice, lovely glaze. I didn't overwork it, so it's not dense like a sausage. And it's been seasoned beautifully, not just with salt, but with, you remember, the Worcestershire sauce and also that soy sauce. So we got a lot of flavor going on in every single bite. These are 4 things that we've made. I'm gonna pull up that we've made. Again, all these things will be on offer to you as far as the different recipes. They're all what I would consider seasonal. Why not? And then if you want a little bit more color, you can go ahead and grab, the parsley that I keep around all the time, little flat leaf Italian parsley. That is not just a garnish. I mean, it tastes amazing. All these fresh herbs are actually very good for you. And it's a breath freshener, if that's your thing. Breath freshener, what are you gonna do? All right, so that's it. That's pretty good. So potatoes, a meatloaf, a lovely soup with some goat's cheese and butter, and using a new vegetable that a lot of us may or may not have been familiar with, is celeriac root vegetable, and then a wonderful peanut butter protein smoothie. What do you think?
Pretty good.
Not bad. I learned a lot. My Rolodex of information from Mary U. Brown is just gaining strength every single time we do this together. So any other questions you want to take care of?
I think we're caught up. We're
Okay.
up to speed, yeah.
The fact that you've all zoomed in from the East Coast, 2 of you from Kansas is crazy. A few of you from California.
By the way, they do know each other.
Do they really? Food brings people
Even
together.
better.
You guys, you're really close-knit community. And thank you for allowing Sarah and I to play even the smallest roles and making this happen. I think that's about it. If there are no more questions, we have separation anxiety issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and just jump off stage and start crying. And then maybe in the springtime, we can all go to Mary Eve's and have a snowball fight if I can get to Baltimore anytime soon. So thank you again, really. Any more questions you have, write them down. We're going to do this again in the near future, or you could just send me a message if it's a culinary question, or a Mary Eve question, if it's health related. But other than that, again, thank you 1,000 times. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. All right, Mary Eve, I'll see you
Thanks.
soon. All right, guys, take care.
Bye.